Okay. I'm not going to say anything. I'm going to wait till Senator Darcy, or Minister Darcy's response, because I'm well versed in this and I've spoken on this on a number of occasions. So I will use my 4 minutes to listen to after the response that comes from Minister Darcy.
Thank you, Senator. I'd like to thank the Senator for giving me the opportunity to update the House in relation to the review of the wind energy development guidelines. The Department of Housing, Planning and Local Government is presently undertaking a focused review of the guidelines to address a number of key aspects, including sound, noise, visual amenity, setback distances, shadow flicker, community obligation, community dividend and grid connections. The review essentially aims to strike a better balance between addressing the concerns of local communities in relation to wind farm developments and the need to generate additional renewable energy capacity, having regard to our binding EU renewable energy targets, while also ensuring that there will be greater and earlier engagement with communities by wind farm developers. In this regard, officials in the Department have been working closely with officials at the Department of Communications on the revision of the guidelines in the context of that Department's remit and lead responsibility in relation to renewable energy generally, including wind. As members of the House may be aware, as part of the overall review, a strategic environmental assessment, or SEA, is being undertaken on the revised guidelines before they come into effect in accordance with the recommendations of EU Directive 2001/24/EC on the assessment of the effects of certain plans and programmes on the environment, otherwise known as SEA Directive. SEA is a process by which environmental considerations are required to be fully integrated into the preparation of plans and programmes which act as frameworks for development consent or planning permission prior to their final adoption, with public consultation being part of that process. The Department of Housing appointed SEA experts to assist in this regard, and significant work is undertaken during 2018 in relation to the SEA process and the development of the revised guidelines. While it was intended that the revised draft guidelines would be published for public consultation in Q1 of this year, some delays to the planned schedule arose due to the publication of 2018 updated World Health Organization environmental noise standards, which consequently need to be taken into account in the finalisation of the guidelines in order to ensure compliance with best international practice, as well as the need to address certain Brexit-related planning issues. As part of the SEA process, there will be an 8-week public consultation on the revised draft guidelines and the comprehensive SEA environmental report. This will enable all stakeholders, including members of the general public, to examine the details of and submit comments and views on the draft proposals. Following the completion of the SEA process and the consideration of the submissions received during the public consultation phase, it is intended that the revised guidelines will be finalised and published later in 2019, after which they will come into effect. The revised guidelines will then be issued under Section 28 of the Planning and Development Act 2000, as amended. In this connection, planning authorities, and where applicable, on board Planana must have regard to ministerial planning guidelines issued under Section 28 in the performance of their statutory functions under the Planning Acts. In the meantime, the current 2006 guidelines remain in force.
Senator Lawlor, you have 4 minutes.
This is a bullshit response. Pure bullshit. I've been listening to this since 2014, being brought up. Unfortunately, Minister, you're not in charge of the department.
You might withdraw
here.
the language.
I won't.
Well, it's not appropriate in this.
Because this is actually a crap response.
Yeah, well, it's not appropriate in the House.
Because this is typical from the department, down in Custom House. Most of them live in the city here, have no experience of what goes on in the rural areas, right? And it's unfortunate you're giving the response, Minister. It's not your department. Ministers Murphy and Minister English have allowed this crap response here today, right? This has been going on since 2014. Various ministers have stood up, either in the Dáil or in this chamber, and have said the guidelines will be published. The guidelines will be published. They were supposed to be out last October, November. And then what happened was they used another excuse not to publish the guidelines. There are communities out there who have planning applications before local authorities and on board planalas, in which their guidelines that are using from 2006. Things have changed since 2006. They're not the same as what they were. The height of these turbines are gone way above what they were at the guidelines were advocating in 2006. This is crap. We don't expect this from a department. There is some official in Customs House whose arse, when he hits the files that are on this, his head hits the roof. There's that many files on it. This sort of crap is not what the public want. They want decisions. And unfortunately, Minister, you're the one that's taking the brunt of what I'm saying here today. And it's not your responsibility.
Minister, you're attacking public servants that are not here
I
to
don't give a
themselves.
shit, because those public servants are delaying this.
Come on, we can
They are delaying this. Those guidelines should have been out in 2014. Here we are, 2019, almost 2020, before these guidelines are out. So I don't give a hoot what officials are. It's about time they were named. Who's sitting on these files and not making the decisions so the public can act on what is out there now at the moment? 2006 is what people are, the planning guidelines are for that. 2006. It'll be 14 years. This is a waste of time putting down this.
Minister, I'll invite you to respond. It's not your department, so you decline. That's fine. Okay.
I'll say except one thing, Senator. There's no need to be ignorant as that as you are.
Thank you.
I just want to come back now. I'm not being ignorant. I am actually given the facts. It's 2006 is the last guidelines. We've been promised those guidelines.
I think you've made the point, Senator Lawlor. Thank you very much indeed.